Good evening. I must say I love the Oscar vibe of this evening. I've never seen anything like it before, and my subject, I'm afraid, is way too serious, perhaps. But we have to talk about the moment that we're in, all together in Europe. So, dear Madam President von der Leyen, dear awardees, dear members of the jury, meine Damen und Herren, I'm going to say a few words about a topic that many people love to hate, or hate to love, which is the European Union. All of us. It's an honor and a pleasure to be able to do that here, celebrating leadership accomplishment in politics. It's a rare thing. We must do it more. Democracy needs positive vibes. And I believe that the award for Mrs. von der Leyen is fully merited. Her political leadership of the Commission, I think, is of historical significance for Europe. In the pantheon of Commission presidents, she's already right up there with Jacques Delors in terms of intrinsic significance. That has to do with leadership. It also has to do with timing, the period that we're in. And the timing means that the leadership of President von der Leyen is a leadership even beyond those of the accomplishments of the past, because it is a transformative one. It changes the very nature of what it means to be a European Union and what it stands for. That's the first point I want to make. We are, with the Geopolitical Commission that you led in your first mandate, in a geopolitical EU. It is important for everybody to understand that, to recognize it, to embrace it, to defend it, to explain it to the citizens that vote and for whom geopolitics is far off. The world order that produced the previous EU was the world order of globalization. Chronologically, peace, institutions, rules, rights, finance, trade, all of that in various degrees, all of that is being dismantled. And we need to understand for that reason that the new EU, the core mission of the new EU, is the opposite of it. It's actually about defending Europe in a world of deglobalization. It's security, autonomy, protection, European style, including defense and security. And everything of the old, commerce, trade, even certain rights and values, more or less become secondary or supportive of the other goal, which is essentially geopolitical. And under that pressure, under the threats of war and conflict, and under Mrs. von der Leyen's stewardship, the EU, in your first mandate, equipped its economic base for that world of geopolitics. Autonomy, resilience, protectionism on our soil, for our markets, for our companies. And that build-up is ongoing. It's never done. It continues on a daily basis. It's a struggle. But that build-up now has to go one step further in a new phase. Started with the second coming of Donald Trump. That second coming has unleashed global tariff war, warfare by enemies, and the erosion of all norms and values. And this is my second point and my first warning. We have entered in the geopolitical phase of the EU a second phase. The first phase was the easy one. The Commission, the EU, was already the heart of market, trade and commerce. It could swiftly turn that into geoeconomics, retooling trade, protecting finance and markets. But now the second phase, the present, the foreseeable future, is geostrategy, not geoeconomics. It is defense, security, territory, borders. And here we are in a difficult spot with the EU. Here we face areas that are traditionally, persistently national sovereignty. Here we see differences in European history, values, identity, geography coming back on the table, influencing priorities and elections, as we have already seen with the reference to Poland. Here we see the need to go for the purpose of the interest of the EU beyond the borders of the EU, to third countries, and bring them in, like the UK, Brexit or not, like Turkey, and of course, like Ukraine itself. The key question that I have that I want to say here tonight is will the EU, will the Commission, as a key pillar, again be able, what they did in the first mandate of Mrs. von der Leyen, be able to be the unifying force, the foundation of a common geopolitical European action. That for this new phase. Or instead, will it be weakness, inaction, or individual countries, alliances of countries of the willing, increasingly setting the course? I know where I stand. I think we are all stronger and better off. We do things together. I believe the EU should be the centripetal force in the interest of everybody. But I'm also less certain that we will be able to avoid this age-old centrifugal curse of European nationalism. And I want to mention 3 points that, in my view, could become choke points for the new EU. 1, I mentioned the UK and Brexit. We are now in the world of Amexit. America is exiting from the global stage. Why do we not now have what we did with the UK? A Mr. Amexit or a Mrs. Amexit, like Mr. Barnier. One single point of contact for the EU. So that Washington or Beijing, in the Kissinger statement, we don't know if we want to call Europe who to call, that they know who to call. And there's one position. Why don't we have that? I would love it, because it reflects something. If you don't have it, it reflects something else. 2, if indeed, as is the case, the current EU, for it to be geostrategic, must have its sphere of influence, hard power, outside the borders of the EU, the Ukraine, Western Balkans, Turkey. Why are we not seeing today a dynamic of urgency to reinvent what EU membership means? Why are we not seeing an innovation of EU membership based on security and defense, a kind of partial membership, faster, much faster than the old enlargement? We know it needs to happen, and it needs to happen quickly, or we risk losing the influence and losing territorial integrity. 3, we all know what is at stake and what it will cost, what the challenge will be, politically, financially, that we have to secure Ukraine and ourselves essentially on our own. Global conflict, great power conflict, is the new global reality. It's the new pandemic. Why are we not seeing in the new pandemic what we saw in the old pandemic? Which is, through the EU, we generate the tools to fight the pandemic. Not vaccines, but now it's rearmament, defense, and security. Why are we not seeing centralized funding, joint procurement, coordination, planning through the EU? Of course, you'll say that's because it's national sovereignty. Yes, that was the case with vaccines too. We overcome it. So we are not overcoming it today. Of course, the Commission is doing its best, incentivizing countries to coordinate, join it in procurement, allowing it with clever financing and debt policies. It's doing its best with a weak hand. The hand should be made stronger, and it's not. It concerns me, and it should concern us, if we think that geopolitical togetherness is a condition, a pre-requirement for it to be a success. Brings me to my final point, since I'm your guest here tonight, Germany. I'm a European citizen. I very much welcome the second German Zeitenwende from the new federal government here in Germany. This time you seem to mean it, so we welcome it. Indeed, I've preached for quite a time that if the EU is to be geopolitical, Germany must turn the page on the 20th century and become geopolitical again. 600 billion, more or less, if I understand it, euros for defense and security. It is historic. It's historic for Germany, domestically. It's historic for the position of Germany, internationally, and specifically in Europe. And that's the point I would like to make. It's a question rather than a point. What is the message for the EU, for the European Union, now that Germany will re-establish itself as a geopolitical actor and I hope also a military force? When the 600 billion plan was announced, I couldn't help but wonder in myself, what would Helmut Kohl have done? And I could not help but think that the Chancellor who gave up on the German mark, who accepted the Oder-Neisse border, who stood hand in hand with Mitterrand in Verdun, would have wanted to stand hand in hand with other nations as Germany takes the historic momentous step forward to geopolitics and defense. That he would have wanted to ensure that the announcement of a geopolitical Germany would coincide with that Germany immediately being fully embedded into a new geopolitical EU of which Germany would be the anchor. And I'm not seeing that. It's a question for me. I don't pretend to be knowledgeable about German politics. It's a question why I'm not seeing it. And it's a warning that I give. If Germany goes for Germany rather than for the EU, if it does not lead the next phase of geopolitical EU integration, enabling the second mandate of Mrs. von der Leyen, then I think we risk seeing the geopolitical mission fail, and we risk seeing political alienation and competition and the comeback of nationalism and protectionism within Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to spoil the party. Madam President von der Leyen, the moment is grave. We are in a significant moment of our history as Europeans. The battle for a strong geopolitical Europe, for a strong home for the European nation states in the world of disorder in the 21st century, has only just begun. We give an award here for something that's not achieved yet. It's only just begun. It's a battle we cannot afford to lose. No one can afford to lose it in Europe. And no one can conceivably try to win it without a strong geopolitical EU. So on an evening like this, while fully endorsing the accomplishments and the stamina, the commitment of the Commission under the leadership of Madam von der Leyen, we must brace this and use this to mobilize the energy for the future, because we will need it. Jean Monnet famously said, and I quote, "Europe will be forced in crisis and will be the sum of the solutions adopted to those crises." That's pragmatism. And that's a pragmatism I would like to call upon. The geopolitical crisis is really upon us. Let us live up to that wisdom. Let us not waste a good crisis, as Churchill said. Thank you very much.
You can, Mr. De Vos, you can stay with me. You can stay, please. You can't be that shy, because we will now announce the Politician of the Year. Die Politikerin des Jahres 2025 begrüßen Sie mit uns Ursula von der Leyen.